UFC was in London town this weekend, and this main event, man, I mean, I think it's safe to say it ruffled some feathers on all sides of the division, really. I think before we get into it, I really think that like the key that I got out of this main event and like my personal reaction to it was kind of what Volkanovski was saying on the post fight. I don't know if you saw that. They had they had him on the post fight show like live right after the fight, and his answer to like, well, what do you make of that? He's like, well, I guess Movsar's next. And I'm like, yeah, that about sums it up. I guess Movsar's next. But we got to get into the fight. In case you guys didn't see it, spoiler alert, Movsar Evloev beat Lerone Murphy via majority decision, 248-46 scorecards, and one draw, 47-47. Obviously, that's because of the point taken away in, what was it, round four? Yeah, round four. For that nut shot, which was a pretty bad one. But yeah, and honestly, I gotta say that too. I did like that Mark Goddard took the point because that was the second time he warned him. You know me, man. I've been saying this about fouls in MMA for a while now. If you do something like that, they will slowly or stop happening. So I'm kind of happy about that. But the fight itself, how did you score it? That's like the ultimate first question we got to get to. How'd you score it?
You want to know round by round, or you want to just know the
Well,
final score?
how about you give me your final scorecard and then tell me what rounds you gave?
It's a draw. It's a draw.
Yeah.
It's a draw, dude. Obviously, people aren't just gonna say that regularly. Like, oh, I think this fight's just gonna end in a draw, or just declare it a draw. But
Me and you have also had that conversation too about like, oh, it looked like a split decision. I'm like, that's not how that works. Sorry, I just always think of that when we have that conversation.
well, this one was easy because I thought I thought Evloev the first two rounds was more or less understood he could dictate the whole rest of the fight if he would just wrestle and take Lerone Murphy down 9 times like he ended up doing. But I think he's got it in his mind that he really wants everyone to stop calling him boring and taking every single fight to decision. And he kind of just embraced kickboxing in the first two rounds, and it's so easy to see that he's down 20-18 after that, but somehow.
Although two judges would disagree. Actually, no, I think yeah, all wait, yeah, two of the three judges would disagree with that, which is
Makes some sense.
mind-boggling.
It
The
makes some
two
sense.
judges gave him round one, and
It makes
I
no
don't know,
sense.
but yeah,
So round three, the one round you could give to him. He should be still down on the scorecard, and then round four, he gets the point taken away, and then which
but wins the
all
round.
yeah
To be
wins the
clear.
round. All 3 rounds, the next 3 rounds he won, and it just I don't know. I think that that's a little much to because I thought Lerone Murphy landed enough, but yeah, I, that's why I can't really say a rob. It's not so glaring a robbery to me as it is like, well, I don't see how Evloev won either.
Yeah, I can understand that. And like, I'll say this: I do disagree about the draw, but like, I agree with you on round three. So it's kind of like close enough. You know, I think we both agree fundamentally, but I just like scored the rounds differently. I gave the first three to Lerone and then the last two to Movsar. But again, like round three, I think is the round that really would determine it for everybody. Because Lerone was similar to the first two rounds. He was piecing up, or yeah, he was piecing up Evloev, and then at the end of the round, Evloev obviously hurt Lerone, and the only thing for me is like it was at the very end, and like I don't know if the fight was really close to being over, but again, like I don't even. It was close. Like that's what I'm saying. That was truly to me like kind of a coin flip, and to me like at most, again, I think at most it should have been a draw. And if anybody would have won this fight, I thought it'd be Murphy. I thought he was, you know, clearly winning the stand-up exchanges until Evloev decided to actually make an effort to take it to the ground. Um, yeah, and I kind of agree with you about Evloev because, I mean, this poor guy, he's undefeated, and then the UFC clearly just doesn't want to give Movsar the title shot. And they finally give him this number one contenders fight. And like this is the most Movsar Evloev outcome in my opinion. He actually does have a pretty exciting fight. You got to admit that it was a pretty decent fight. But then it's kind of a controversial scorecard. You have a lot of people who think Lerone Murphy was robbed, and then you have like people who are more like me and you that think at most should have been a draw. You think it definitely should have been a draw, and like now you have a controversial decision, and again like Alexander Volkanovski, I I guess Movsar is next. That's what he said. So it just makes you it leaves a lot to be desired to put it like that. Um, but I'll say this too about both guys. Like I thought they both put on a good performance in there in their own ways. I don't know how good Lerone's performance might have looked if Movsar was actually pushing the grappling from the jump, but he didn't do that, and that ultimately falls on Movsar, not on Lerone. So it was a close fight. Again, like I'm not one to cry robbery, but again, I think if anyone should have gotten a 48-46 scorecard, it should have been Lerone, not Movsar. And that it just sucks because like I said, this is so typical for him. He gets a win. It's actually pretty exciting, and the fight though is just so close and it was controversial, and now everybody's like, well, should he get the title shot, even though it's like obviously yeah. But we've seen the UFC matchmaking as of late, and Movsar gets the win here over Lerone Murphy, the clear number one versus number two fight in the featherweight division. Movsar gets the win, and I think it's clear as day now. Volk versus Diego Lopez 3 is the fight to make. But honestly, though, I still could see them passing up Movsar for John Silva. And I don't think that they should, but I could see an avenue where that happens. I mean, look at Diego Lopez getting the title shot over all these guys. You could argue that Movsar should have gotten that shot. And now he got another win, and he still might not get the title shot, which is mind-boggling. And it sucks for him because, it's the scorecards were the scorecards. He did look good, but everybody now is having the conversation, well, did he win that fight? I don't know. I mean, on paper he did. So I think he deserves the title fight, but I honestly don't know if he gets it. I hope he does. But what do you think is next for the featherweight division? Because I'd say what's next for Movsar, but I think that's kind of unclear. I think basically what you think is going to happen with the featherweight division will kind of determine what happens for Movsar.
It's just, I just think guys like Lerone Murphy who have been surging all the way to this spot, this main event spot, and just to get knocked down a peg is, I think it's more negative for the whole division than it is good, which is part of why you'd think the judges would sway towards his way on when making the decision, but now that UFC's just kind of met with a rock and a hard place where it's like they kind of have to put him in the title fight now, and now they're not gonna really have a way. They don't know I don't think they're gonna want to brand or market Evloev at all.
I don't even know how you can. And I'm an MMA purist, man. I think Movsar deserves the title fight. I think he's clearly the number one contender. He's clearly the only, well, Lerone too, but now that Lerone has taken a loss, Movsar is the true threat to Volkanovski's title. But like you said, it's hard to market a guy like Movsar. I mean, this dude, he's been so dominant, but he hasn't had a single finish in the UFC. So what do you even make his highlight reel look like? And it's easy to promote a fight night because yeah, well, clearly he's at the top of the division. He deserves big fights. But now you're going to be putting him in a fight with Volkanovski, which you're going to have to market to the casual audience. And I don't know how they do that with Movsar. But I think that it's their job to do it because the guy deserves the title fight. I mean, if they give it to John Silva, and I like John Silva, but that would be insane to me, especially after they've already given Diego Lopez a rematch that he didn't totally deserve. So, And we saw how that went. That's the thing. And honestly, I think that Volk versus John Silva goes in a similar way to that because they fight in a similar way. So I just this I didn't think that like this would happen. I thought like the worst thing that could happen for the division in the UFC's eyes at this for this fight would be that like Movsar lays and prays for 25 minutes. They didn't get that, but now they have a whole nother problem. So it's like I think they got to give it to him though. That's the main thing here. Like I get the allure of giving it to a guy like John Silva because of how exciting he is, but I mean,
there's only so many contenders left to at least fight Volkanovski left in.
yeah, and there's featherweight contender matchups that are coming up in the future too. So it's not like the division is in a bad spot, but like right now, I think that Evloev deserves the title fight, and I think you got to give it to him before something else happens and makes it even more murky and confusing. Because like you already had Vijayos getting the win over Emmett last week, and he hasn't been as proven yet, but he's on the fast track towards the top of that division. You have Aljamain Sterling versus Yusuf Salal. That's about a month from now. I think either of those guys could steal that spot. And honestly, maybe they'll wait to see what happens in some of these fights because then May 16th, Arnold Allen versus Melky Costa. So, like, there's some big featherweight matchups coming up there. And I'd be very curious to see if they decide to book a title fight before that. But I don't know if they will. I think they might wait to see what happens. Because right now, I mean, we got the April card. We have... Do we have a May main event? I don't think we do. I'm trying to see. I mean, I know it's booked. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Kamaya versus Strickland. That's here in Jersey. I should know that. But then after that is the White House event. That's in mid-June. And then July 11th, International Fight Week. You'd think that that's probably going to be a McGregor comeback if they can make that fight. So now you have till August, assuming that they don't want to book that for July. So let's assume August. They could sit on their hands until mid-May and see what happens with the division. And with a guy like Movsar, I don't see that as like an unrealistic thing for the UFC to do, especially considering like they've done a lot of stuff last minute, like recently. You look at the White House card and all that happened literally the day before the card got announced. They said they had a fight fall through. Then you hear Abe Kawa, John Jones's manager, talking about he was negotiating on the phone all night. It's like these guys do tend to leave it like pretty close, so I could definitely see them waiting and seeing maybe if an easier contender pops up. But I don't know. I think they should just give it to Movsar because I'll say this too: if Movsar can't get Volkanovski down, that's a tough fight for Movsar, and like I wouldn't be so quick to discount a guy like Volk in that fight, even though he hasn't really fought a guy at featherweight like Evloev. I mean, he's fought Islam Makhachev, but that was also a weight class up, so you can't really to me, you can't draw the same conclusions from that, although you can draw some. But like, I look, I look at this right now, and I don't see any other fight to make. I think Movsar Evloev is the clear number one contender, whether you thought he won this fight or not. I think he was the clear number one contender before that. So, and this fight, honestly, even with the controversial result, this fight for Movsar made it even more interesting because now I want to see a Volk fight because look at how good of a fight this was with Lerone. And like Lerone was actually able to get back to his feet, which not a lot of people were able to do against Movsar Evloev. And we know how good Alexander Volkanovski is. We know how smart he is. That makes me want to see this fight even more because before, I think the UFC might have been worried that Movsar is going to lay and pray on our popular champion for 25 minutes and get the belt. But I'm not so sure he can do that now. I mean, I'm not saying that he's not a threat at all. I do think he could take Volkanovski down, but if Volk can keep getting up, we saw how this fight looked on the feet. And I've said this before, I think Volkanovski does everything that Lerone Murphy does, just a step better. Yeah. So I would love to see it, man. And I think that this would... I actually kind of just convinced myself. Like, I think this is the fight they got to make because it's kind of... This would be the time to do it because now you know that Movsar has some flaws. It might not be a foregone conclusion that he's just going to try and lay on him the whole time. And I'm thinking about this from the UFC's perspective.
I hope they do it.
I do too. I don't want to see Volk waste another fight fighting somebody who doesn't necessarily deserve the shot. I want to see him fight the number one guy, and that's Movsar. So that's how I feel about this. I mean, the rest of the card, there's not really too much to
Yeah.
talk about, so we just want to stick with the main event. I mean, a lot of talk about Michael Venom Page lately. I don't know. I feel like his UFC tenure might not last that much longer. Seems like there's kind of bitterness on both sides at this point because MVP seems like he's not satisfied with the matchups he's getting, which I understand. I mean, you beat Shara and then you beat Cannonier, and then you get Sam Patterson. Like it's kind of a weird trajectory, and he's talked about that. But then for the UFC, I think that when they signed MVP, they were hoping that they'd get some of that Bellator magic that he had, having some highlight reel knockouts. And considering it didn't happen in this fight versus a guy who doesn't have much of a name, didn't seem like Dana White was too happy. So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It'll be
Well,
interesting to
I
see.
think I think, see, despite how unconventional and strange his style is, I think he he just wants to stare down, stare down the barrel and expect his opponents to just stay there for him. You know what I mean? Like where
I mean, they kind of do because they're so frozen. They can't. See,
yeah,
that's the other thing. Like, he don't get me wrong. This was a
all
terrible
Sam
fight, but
Patterson did was just circle and circle,
yeah, well, because they don't want to get knocked out.
circle.
And I think that his style, like, it makes it harder for him to get matchups in the UFC because even the guys who agree to fight him, they're not going to take risks. They don't want to be on the other end of a highlight reel. That's how good this guy is on the feet. Like,
Yeah.
people are so wrapped up calling MVP boring, they forget how good his striking is. There's a reason why these
Well,
guys don't
also,
want to
yeah,
blitz.
and guys, they can't afford that because it, they got it. I don't know because it's like,
I get
yeah,
both sides of it. I
there's
really do.
that part, and then there's also like Sam Patterson should probably be cut anyways after not doing anything. So like, is it really? I don't know. I guess the trade off is just not actually getting knocked out, and maybe you'll live to see another fight, but.
I don't know.
Yeah, they don't. They didn't get. They don't. Guys are just. They're too smart for and stuff. They're not trying to. They're not trying to just be, just another guy in MVP's resume. But I mean, it doesn't really matter because all they're giving him is right now at least they're only just they don't really want to put him on this fast track um to a legitimate contender in the division, and that's not I don't because he's how old now anyways. When I
Good
saw
question.
he's
Been around for
kind
a
of
long
up
time.
there in age as it is.
He is 38.
So
About to be 39 in like 2 weeks.
yeah, I don't think UFC's plan might have never been for him to actually make a run at a championship. So I
I
think
just
it's
think
just
they thought they were getting the guy who broke Cyborg's skull in Bellator. Like they thought that they were getting a guy that could produce those high level moments. And, he's looked pretty damn good so far in the UFC, but he hasn't really been able to have that like insane star making type of moment that I think the UFC was hoping that they would have gotten by now. And now it seems like MVP is his stock isn't as high as it was. And I'd imagine that his paychecks are probably a lot higher than they want to be paying for that right now, which is again crazy because it's a company that profits billions every single year. But that fact aside, um, it. But that I'm talking as a realist. I mean, this is how they operate. So it seems like both sides aren't really satisfied right now. I don't know how many fights are left on MVP's UFC contract, but I wouldn't be too shocked to see him out the door in a fight or two, if, depending on how long it was. But
yeah, it's how it's gonna
sucks
go.
because he's a good fighter. And I honestly like even fights like this. I get that they're boring like to the average fan. I really do. Like it wasn't an exciting fight. Can't deny that. But I really do just like appreciate watching a guy like MVP who's able to just evade every single shot that's thrown at him. But when it doesn't turn into an insane knockout, you kind of get a fight like this. And I would understand why a fan who's maybe not as into the technical side of the sport wouldn't really enjoy that. But Outside of that, just two last things I wanted to just highlight real quick, and then we'll get out of here. Iwo Baranowski, I like this guy. I'm keeping my eye on him. Dude, elite judo, hasn't had to use it yet. Every single fight he's had has ended in the first round, and he knocked out Austin Lane in 28 seconds. I think that this dude deserves a bit of a step up in competition because while Austin Lane is like the gatekeeper between like prospects and like true prospects, I'd like to see Iwo fight someone who's more on his level because I mean, we know he's got elite judo. He just hasn't had to use it yet. And I'm curious to see who can get him to the point where he does have to use it. So I'm keeping my eye out for him, and you guys definitely should too. And last thing, shout out to Mason Jones and Axel
Oh yeah,
Sola for having just
yeah,
an
definitely.
insane fight, man.
Yeah.
What a fight. Probably fight of the year. I think it's right now it's between that and Gaethje versus Patty. But this one was a banger, man. Definitely had me glued to the TV. So shout out to those guys. Decent enough card. Definitely a little bit to talk about, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this little breakdown here. Subscribe if you did, and until UFC Seattle next week, we will see y'all.